Have you ever booted up a game you loved back in the day and within a few minutes thought, why does this feel so wrong? Not that it's bad or broken, it's just different. So what changed? Is it the game? Is it you? Is it something else? Well, today I want to talk about a handful of popular retro games that almost everyone has played, and why replaying them now can feel off. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to wipe the shine off these gems, but each one runs into its own kind of modern wall. So let's start with a game where the atmosphere still works, but the experience doesn't always cooperate. Now, Metroid is usually remembered for its mood, its sense of discovery, but here's the question that comes up when you replay it today. Why does a game built around exploration now feel so difficult to explore? I mean, you're dropped into an alien world, there's no instructions, no direction. Mysterious, right? But on revisiting the game, a thought starts to creep in. Am I actually exploring or just wandering? The original Metroid had no in-game map and no guidance, which is a big handicap by today's standards. And when you die in Metroid, you find yourself asking, how long is it going to take me to get back to where I was? And where the heck was I anyway? So what was once about discovery now feels like trying to remember where you left your car keys. Now, later Metroid games solved this problem by making progress more evident and tangible, and once you've experienced that, it's hard to go back to the original. How much uncertainty in a game is actually enjoyable, and how much just slows you down? This is a formula that modern Metroidvanias have mastered, but still, we have to give credit to the original for even asking that question in the first place. Now let's talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. This game creates a very specific split reaction. Some people boot it up and immediately fall into a rhythm. Others struggle to get going again. So why does this game feel instantly comfortable for some players and immediately frustrating for others? Well, at first, it's easy to assume the answer is skill. If you still remember how to line up jumps, do tricks, what routes to take, and where the objectives are located, the game still flows nicely. But here's the problem. What if you don't remember any of those things? That's where the experience changes, because the game never really teaches you how to jump back in. There are no tutorials, no gradual introduction. The game expects you to figure it out on the fly. Is Tony Hawk actually hard, or is it just uninterested in teaching you again? That's the friction. If you don't remember how to play Tony Hawk, the game doesn't help you remember. And the remakes kind of prove that point. They added in tutorials, clearer feedback, and a smoother user experience overall. My take is that Tony Hawk didn't become harder over time, but in an area where most games are way too hand-holdy, Tony Hawk just is harder to relearn. Now, in fairness, there are many other classic games that assume you would figure it out as you go, but Tony Hawk stands out because it relies almost entirely on your muscle memory, and rebuilding that feels like a chore once it's gone. Next up is Donkey Kong 64. This game was known for being packed full of content, and at the time, it felt like you could just play it forever. But replaying it today, the feeling I have is, when did having a lot to do stop being rewarding and start to be tiring? Because at first, the structure of this game seems great. Big worlds, lots of objectives, but the longer you play, the more you ask yourself, how patient can I be with all this repetition? Multiple Kongs with multiple abilities, and so many collectibles. Progress becomes less about discovery and more like managing your chores list. Now, the game itself hasn't changed, but did our tolerance for repetition change? And the answer is most definitely yes. Modern games like Super Mario Odyssey kept the collectathon idea, but removed the constant backtracking and character juggling that makes Donkey Kong 64 feel exhausting to revisit. Now still, Donkey Kong 64 did help define what a large-scale collectathon could look like, and for that it deserves credit, even if its structure didn't age as gracefully. Now we have Sonic Adventure, which was a major shift. This was Sonic's first real 3D adventure. It had high speed, it had a lot of ambition, and there are moments where this game just works. I think of the first level, like probably most of you do. But replaying it today, I can't help but think, why does a game built around speed so often slow you down? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You'll be blazing through a level, and then all of a sudden you're fighting the camera, or you get to a platforming section where your jumps just don't land the way you would expect them to. And then there's the structure of the game. There are multiple characters with different mechanics, which is a good thing, but they're all at different levels of polish. So just when you adjust, they change the rules. The friction isn't the difficulty, I would say it's more the inconsistency. How comfortable are you having to relearn a game every few hours? You can see what Sonic Adventure was reaching for, but replaying it now can feel like watching 3D design being figured out in real time. Now, Sonic Adventure deserves credit for attempting something incredibly difficult, translating Sonic speed into full 3D. And honestly, that's a problem that still no modern comparison has completely solved. Now we have the original Tomb Raider, and boy, was this game so revolutionary when it was released. It was built around careful movement, large environments, and deliberate pacing. There was a real sense of isolation, but replaying it today, the tension feels less like danger and more like control stress. At first, you think it's just that. It's the controls, right? The tank movement, a camera that doesn't always cooperate. But the deeper issue shows up when you fail. You ask, did I miss that jump, or did the game read my input differently than I expected? So every attempt at a jump becomes this ritualistic commitment. You line it up, you press forward, you jump, you hope, you pray. That becomes the tension. It's hard to focus on exploration when the movement feels like a hostage negotiation. But I don't want to give the original too much flack, because even the modern Tomb Raider games still struggle with this. And I have to give the original credit for proving that this type of 3D adventure could work in the first place. And now we have Shenmue. Ah yes, Shenmue. This was another revolutionary game. It was a living, breathing world. All the NPCs had schedules, they had routines, time would pass naturally. But on replay, I kept entertaining this question. When does realism stop feeling immersive and start feeling restrictive? In this game, progress often means waiting. Waiting for a store to open. Waiting for a character to arrive. And when you're not waiting, you're walking, often very slowly. The friction isn't boredom, although that would seem obvious. It's more about losing your locus of control. Who's in control of your pace? Is it you, or is it the game? Modern games tend to keep you moving, even when things slow down. Shenmue asks you to align your time with its world. And once you're used to modern pacing, that feels very limiting. You can see how that philosophy evolved in later Sega open world games, where the world still feels alive, but progress rarely depends on waiting for the clock to cooperate. But once again, Shenmue deserves credit for proving that a game world could feel truly lived in, even if later games learned how to balance realism with player agency. And finally, we have GoldenEye 007, which we've saved for last because this game holds a very specific kind of special memory. Memories of friends on the couch, memories of split screens, memories of shared rules. No one had to explain. No odd job, obviously. But here's the question on replay. Why does this feel so vivid in memory, but so awkward in motion? When you replay GoldenEye, the answer shows up instantly. For one thing, it's the controls. There is no dual analog on the Nintendo 64. It's button-based aiming. And then add the frame rate. It starts out as a slideshow and then progressively gets worse the more action there is. Even players who grew up with this game feel the pain on replaying it. Why? It's because since then, our hands have learned a different standard. So what happens when your memory and your muscle memory no longer match? GoldenEye 007. That's what happens. And yet still, we will all fondly remember this game for the experiences it created for us growing up. And additionally, the huge leaps it successfully pioneered in paving the way for modern FPS games. So here's the underlying question behind this entire video. Why do so many classics feel harder to replay even when we still respect them? It's because many of these games were early answers to unsolved problems. Early 3D cameras, early control schemes, early ideas about pacing and guidance. At the time, the innovation stood out more than the friction. Modern games standardized many of these solutions. Cameras became reliable, controls became intuitive, feedback became clearer. So when we go back, we feel the contrast. It's not because the games got worse, but because our expectations moved forward. It's not nostalgia fading, it's design evolving. So again, none of this is about calling these games bad. They deserve the utmost respect. They help define the medium and push it forward. But it's also fair to say this. Some classics are easier to appreciate than to replay. And noticing that doesn't diminish them. If anything, it helps us understand what they contributed and why modern design looks the way it does. So, I'll leave you with one last question. What's a game you still respect, but don't really feel motivated to finish again today? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this content, well, you know what to do. If you made it this far, thanks for watching, and happy gaming, my friends.